Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Life Lessons, and today I will be talking about my experience with Air Force Common Admission Test and also the SSB interview process. I gave the examination in the year 2011 and was able to qualify both the written AFCAT examination as well as the 5-day long interview process, which is in the SSB process. So in this video, I would like to share my experience of both the test on how did I qualify the written test as well as the SSB interview, and would like to share that with you. Finally, I was not able to go to the Air Force because of some medical condition which I had in my heart, and finally was not able to qualify the medical examination. But this video will be a good platform for you to understand about the whole process. So here it goes. So the first stage starts with the Air Force Common Admission Test, the written examination. In the written examination, you basically have 4 sections on English verbal ability, general knowledge, numerical ability, and test of reasoning. I won't give you much details about the duration of the examination, the number of questions, because that is very easy to find. What I will tell you is what are the tips and tricks to actually crack the examination. So from my own experience, what I did was I started practicing some basic maths and English questions 2 months prior to the examination. And also in order to improve my general knowledge, starting reading a lot of news and going through the newspaper for 10 minutes in a day, which was I think more than enough to crack the examination. When I went to the examination, I found it pretty easy. It's not a very difficult examination considering I was from engineering background and my quantitative was pretty good. I think it was a pretty easy examination, and written test is not a hurdle at all. So pretty basic to go about. Next, let's look at the more grilling process, which is the SSB process for a 5-day long duration. Now, when you go in the SSB process, day 1 is screening, where you have, in my experience, I had around 300 different candidates for day 1, and now since the Air Force team cannot assess all the 300 candidates over a 5-day duration, there's a massive chunk of students who are actually not accepted for the next days. So this is the screening process. In the screening process, you have an OIR test, which is again the basic numerical ability and verbal ability. Then secondly, there is a story writing test where you will be shown a picture. You have to write a story on that. And once you write the story, you will be in a group discussion where each candidate actually has to tell the story one by one, and then in the group discussion you will have to come at a common conclusion. So these are the 3 processes which go into the screening process. Once this is done, the result for day 1 is announced, and I think from 300 approximately 10% students, the candidates are selected for the next rounds. Tips and tricks. So the first tip for actually qualifying the screening examination is in the group discussion. I think group discussion is a very important part of this process. In terms of the story, everyone has their own story and you can easily come up with a story. In group discussion, make sure you take the lead. Make sure your voice is heard, but do not overemphasize on your points. That's the important point. Second tip, when the conclusion is being decided in the group discussion, make sure you do not negate everyone else's idea. Take along everyone. So for example, if some other guy is suggesting some idea, take his idea, put your story's idea, and then combine the idea. It's basically a team process, and you don't have to sound very imposive in the group discussion. Speak 2 to 3 times, tell your story nicely, and come up with the conclusion. It's not necessary that you always have to take the lead in making the conclusion. Even if you support in the ideas in a very logical way, I think that should be more than enough. For the numerical ability test, I think again very basic. Don't worry about that too much. Just start practicing a bit. That's it for day 1. So now when you are screened, you go to the next process. There the exact very gruesome process, grilling process for the service the SSB starts on. So 1 is psychology test. You can't prepare for the psychology test. I would say just be your natural self. Whosoever you are as a person, just put everything in that test according to your own instincts. So in the thematic appreciation test, you will be shown 30-second pictures and you have to write stories on that. Again, pretty basic. but start practicing. Third is the word association test. You will be shown 60 words and then you have to write one sentence each on the words. Fourth is the situation reaction test, where you will be given different situations and they try to assess your response towards those situations. The fifth is the self-description test, where you have to write about yourself. So I'll describe the tips and tricks for these 5 ones because these go in parallel. Like in day 1 only, these all the tests are conducted. So I would like to give you the tips and tricks for each of these. You see here the main theme is that you need to be very spontaneous in making your stories and sentences. So what I would say in order to practice is, what I did was, I used to take 10 images in my mind every day and make stories spontaneously, like in split seconds for that. And then I was checking my answers, that how good logical my answers were, how good my stories were. That's the first tip. Second, be positive in those stories. Do not give negative instances in the stories. Show a positive end outcome in these stories. Even if you're in your sentences, try to have a positive sentence for the word associations. For the situation reaction test, I would say stay who you are, be honest in the situation reaction, but again a bit on the positive side. In the self-description test, I think pretty basic. Everyone can write about themselves, but it's always very good to practice some questions about you, what your parents think about you, what your friends think about you. So some basic questions. And if you do these basic things, you will be able to crack these first 5 tests. So next is the group discussion test. In the group discussion test, there will be some current affair topics which will be given to you, and you have to have a discussion on those topics. Again, follow the basics of group discussion. 1. State your points very clearly. Second, be very logical. Third, do not negate anyone. And fourth, try to come up with a solution or a conclusion by taking everyone's perspective. And that's all. Group discussion will be cracked. Planning test. In the planning test, you will be given a certain problem, a certain map, and again in teamwork, you have to come up with a solution. Same rules follow for the planning test also, as I explained in the group discussion. Have teamwork. Do not try to impose your points on anyone, but work along everyone. Next is the obstacles test. In this, you will be given certain planks and you have to overcome certain obstacles. There are a lot of videos on that. So in the obstacles test, again they are again testing you for the teamwork. Follow the same rules. Individual physical test. I think this is a very important test and you have to prepare for this test. So make sure that once you have qualified the written examination, start working on your physical abilities. Try to run a bit, do some exercises, basic exercises. It's not a very difficult test, but again, your physical condition needs to be good in order to qualify for this test. The command task. Now in this task, you will be a leader and you have to guide other candidates to overcome a task. My suggestion for the command task is that as a leader, first listen to everyone's point. What is their suggestion on what is your team's suggestion on how to overcome the challenge? And then as a leader, you have to give different responsibilities after listening to the challenge, after listening to their the solution of the teams. And then it's pretty easy. Individual lecture test. In this, you will be given 4 topics, out of which you have to choose one topic and speak on that. Try practicing before you come for the SSB test. Take certain instances in your daily life and just start making some notes and speak for 3 minutes, and you will be able to do that. Then you have a final group test where again the same kind of group discussions will be going on, and again follow the same things. Personal interview. It is a very long interview for about 45 minutes to 1 hour, and in this interview, make sure you prepare for this interview by introspecting in your life in what you have done in your entire life. So to prepare for the interview, look back 10 years in your life and see what all achievements have been made by you, what challenges were faced, how do others perceive you, why do you want to go to Air Force or the Army, and what is your long-term planning. Prepare these questions, be very thorough in introspecting yourself. Secondly, there were also some questions on basic maths which were given to me. which were, for example, they were checking me for the speed of sound, conversions of speed of sound. So make sure that you do some spontaneous quantitative math, which you would have already practiced for the AFCAT written examination as well as for the OER test. So in that sense, in quant, you would be pretty good, but introspection is a very important technique. And then finally, there is a conference where a lot of officers will be sitting, and then you are asked to come, and there will be some basic questions on how did you find the experience, how could we improve the experience. One important thing in conference to keep in mind is that make sure after the personal interview, the questions which you were not able to answer in the personal interview, make sure you have the answers for them in order to answer the questions if again they are asked in the conference, because these guys check, that is this guy curious enough to know the answers, and that is very important. I think these tips and tricks will be very helpful for you, and it's very basic. It's just be yourself, and you will be able to crack the examination. I hope this video was helpful, and in case you have any more questions, please write in the comments below. Thank you, and thank you for watching.